Time for Chapter 2. This chapter delves into what does it really take to become a true expert, a genius. We love to think it's all about some kind of innate talent, a magical gift that only a few lucky people are born with. But what if the real story is something completely different? What if success isn't just about being born with talent, but about practice and maybe even more importantly, the opportunity to practice? Let's dig into that. All right. I want you to keep this quote from John Lennon in the back of your mind. 8 hours. Not practice, but actual performance. It sounds brutal, right? Almost like a punishment. But as we're about to see, that grueling experience was actually the hidden key to the Beatles' incredible success. It's a huge clue to a much bigger pattern. Gladwell kicks things off with the story of a guy named Bill Joy. Now, if you talk to people in Silicon Valley, they speak about him with the same kind of respect they have for Bill Gates or Elon Musk. Some people even call him the Edison of the internet. His story seems like the perfect example of pure talent just rising to the top. So, who is this guy? Well, back in 1971, he was, in his own words, a no-date nerd who just kind of stumbled into the University of Michigan's shiny new computer center, and he was instantly hooked. He goes on to rewrite the Unix operating system, a version that millions of computers still use today. He helps create the Java programming language and co-founds the tech giant Sun Microsystems. I mean, a true prodigy, a computer genius. The world of computer programming back in the 70s seemed like a pure meritocracy, and you know what that is now. It wasn't about who you knew or who your dad was. It was just about what you could do. It was this wide open field where the best programmers won, period. And Bill Joy was without a doubt one of the best. But is that really the whole story, or was there some kind of invisible advantage at play? To really get to the bottom of what happened with Bill Joy, we got to take a little detour. We need to look at what psychologists have discovered about talent and preparation. For years, they've been debating this one simple question. Is there really such a thing as innate talent? Well, the answer, it's a little complicated. So, back in the early 90s, a psychologist named K. Anders Ericsson conducted this really fascinating study. He went to this super elite music academy in Berlin, and he divided all the violin students into 3 groups. You had the stars, the ones with the potential to be world-class soloists. Then you had the good students, and finally, the ones who were probably going to end up as music teachers. I don't mean to disrespect music teachers, but that's what the book says. And what the study found was honestly kind of mind-blowing. The one thing that separated these groups wasn't some magical inborn musical genius. Nope. It was simply how much they practiced. I mean, look at this. By age 20, the elite violinists had racked up on average 10,000 hours of practice. The good students, 8,000. And the future teachers had just 4,000. What's really wild is that the researchers found no naturals. People who just made it to the top with no real effort or super hard. And this is where it gets crazy. This number, 10,000 hours, researchers kept finding it over and over again across all kinds of different fields. We're talking chess masters, composers, even master criminals. This number just keeps popping up, 10,000 hours. So, what all this research suggests is what we now call the 10,000 hour rule. It's basically the idea that 10,000 hours is the critical amount of practice your brain needs to reach true world-class expertise. Even a supposed prodigy like Mozart didn't create his masterpieces until he'd already been composing for over a decade. See, practice isn't the thing you do once you're good. It's the thing that makes you good. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. 10,000 hours is a massive amount of time. It's almost impossible for a young person to get their all on their own. You need support, you need resources, and most of all, you need a special kind of opportunity to put in all those hours. So, having said that, let's go back to Bill Joy. For most programmers in the 70s, the work was a total labor. They used these things called punch cards. It was tedious and painfully slow. You'd write your code, hand your stack of cards to an operator, and then wait for hours, maybe even a whole day, just to find out you had a single typo. But Bill Joy, by pure dumb luck, ended up with the University of Michigan, one of the very first universities in the world to use a time-sharing system, and almost no other schools in the world had it. As Joy himself said, it was the difference between playing chess by mail and speed chess, a total game changer. And get this, it wasn't just one lucky break, it was a whole cascade of them. He happens to be at one of the few universities with this amazing system. Then, it turns out the system had a bug that let him program for free for as long as he wanted. The computer center was open all night. He estimates he was programming 8 to 10 hours a day. So, by the time he gets to Berkeley and this huge opportunity to rewrite Unix comes along, boom, he'd already hit his 10,000 hours. And this pattern of opportunity, it's not just for programmers. Let's see how it applies to another really famous example, the Beatles. Yeah, those Beatles. Long before they became such a hit in America and all over the world, they were just a scrappy high school band. Then in 1960, they get this really weird invitation to go play in Hamburg, Germany. And that was their extraordinary opportunity. Remember that Lennon quote? We had to play for 8 hours. This is what he was talking about. They weren't playing nice 1-hour sets. They were in these gritty, grimy clubs, playing for up to 8 hours a night, 7 nights a week. By the time they finally blew up in 1964, they had performed live an estimated 1,200 times. Most bands don't play that many shows in their entire career. Hamburg wasn't glamorous, but it gave them their 10,000 hours. It was what made them the Beatles. This pattern just keeps on going with one of the most famous outliers of all, Bill Gates. We all know the legend of the brilliant Harvard dropout who starts Microsoft. But his path to get there was paved with a series of lucky breaks that are almost too good to be true. His path was just this unbelievable chain of good fortune. It all started in 1968 when his elite private school got a time-sharing computer terminal, which was almost unheard of for anyone, let alone an 8th grader. When the school's computer fund ran out, one of the parents, who had founded a tech company, gave the kids free programming time on weekends in exchange for testing their software. From there, he found more free time at another company and even started sneaking into the University of Washington computer labs to code from 3 to 6, 0 inches the morning. Each step was just another incredible opportunity to practice. So by the time he leaves Harvard to start Microsoft, he had been programming pretty much nonstop for 7 years. He was way past 10,000 hours. As Gates himself admits, he had a level of exposure to software development at a young age that almost nobody else in the world had, all because of an incredibly lucky series of events. But opportunity isn't just about what school you go to or what city you live in. The biggest opportunity of all might just be something you have zero control over when you were born. I mean, we went over this with sports players, but in this chapter, it is historical timing. This can also be a powerful, totally hidden advantage. Consider this. Of these 75 richest people in all of human history, an astonishing 14 of them are Americans who were born in this very narrow 9-year window in the mid 1830s. We're talking about people like John D. Rockefeller, and Andrew Carnegie. They were the absolute perfect age to seize the opportunities of the Industrial Revolution. Not too old to be stuck in the past, and not too young to miss it completely. Okay, so let's apply that exact same logic to the dawn of the personal computer, which really kicked off around January 1975. Again, you don't want to be too old with a mortgage and a steady job at IBM because you're probably already married and don't want to take risks for a startup. You don't want to be too young, still in high school. The ideal age to be was 20 or 21, which means you were probably born in 1954 or 1955. So, what do we find? Bill Gates, born in 1955, Steve Jobs, 1955. The future CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, 1955, and Bill Joy, 1954. The pioneers of the PC revolution were almost all born in this tiny, perfect window of time. I mean, come on, this pattern is just too powerful to be a coincidence. So, what this all tells us is that while these outliers were brilliant and worked incredibly hard, their success wasn't just their own. They were the beneficiaries of talent, sure, but also of special opportunities, lucky breaks, and perfect timing, all products of the unique world they happened to grow up in. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. We celebrate individual merit, and we absolutely should, but this evidence suggests we also have to account for all the hidden advantages and arbitrary opportunities that shape a person's path. So, you have to wonder, how much of any great success story is really just about being in the right place at the exact right time?
If you'd like more personalized feedback, writing support, and discussion sessions, they're available with me or with our selected tutors. All the details are here.